I think the biggest problem with alcohol is not its inherent evil or something, but rather how the excessive use of it is glamorized, romanticized, and not taken as seriously as it needs to be. In the popular culture in Hollywood, what's shown most of the time is the glamorous side and the romanticized side of alcohol.
Most of us know that there's a negative side to alcohol, but at the same time, there's this whole world of billboards and TV commercials and films in which everyone's so happy and having such a good time and there are no negative consequences. So it's very difficult to really take it seriously and to see that this is, in fact, a drug that has often really dreadful consequences.
Any college student knows the non-glamorous side of drinking that you never see in beer commercials or in pop culture representations, which is on the Saturday morning mess after the Friday night parties that only the janitor sees. If you talk to the people in the health services, the kind of violence that they see and the kind of pain and suffering that they see, and non-glamorous side to alcohol that needs to be acknowledged if we're going to be honest and fair about examining this issue.
In terms of personal effects, there's a whole range of consequences that students will experience with regard to drinking, and it's very much dependent on how much they drink and how often they drink.
Important to understand that there's no simple solution to the problem of high-risk drinking on college campuses. This is a public health problem, and public health problems are solved only by changing the environment. What this means is taking the focus off the individual and putting it on the environment in which the individual makes his or her choices, and the industries that profit from unhealthy choices.
This isn't just about a few beer ads or even popular culture references in television or Hollywood film. There's also, posters on the walls in guys', dorm rooms. There's, the T-shirts that people wear. There's slogans. There's bumper stickers. There's all kinds of sort of iconography and symbolic imagery that surrounds the environment. All companies want to do is they want to be inside the world of young people, and they've pretty successfully done that.
The industry spends $3 billion a year on advertising, glamorizing alcohol, and then a tiny, tiny fraction of that on so-called prevention messages. But these prevention messages are deliberately vague and misleading. They say things like know when to say when, or think when you drink, or drink responsibly, but they will never define what they mean by that.
Their definition of drinking responsibly is very narrowly defined. There are a whole bunch of other consequences of drinking that they don't deal with. For example, the correlation between unintended pregnancies and drinking, or sexually transmitted diseases, or battering, sexual violence, violence between men. I mean, there's so many different consequences that they don't talk about. Let's face it, the beer companies don't care about the well-being of students. All they care about is a profit. And so those of us who are in positions of educational influence need to be providing students, both men and women, of course, with the analytic tools to understand the ways in which they're being manipulated and how their gender and sexual identities are being manipulated in particular.
Women need to challenge the stereotypical definitions of beauty and sexuality. We need to take charge of our own sexuality and not let it be defined for us by people with something to sell.
When guys are trying to force each other to drink too much or to drink to prove their manhood, they need to be called out on that. That's abusive behavior, and that needs to be said, and guys need to say it to each other. Guys also need to give each other permission to not be influenced by these cultural messages about manhood. We need to encourage young men to be themselves and not to conform to definitions of manhood that are constructed by the alcohol industry, who doesn't care about those guys.
And if your friend had a problem, say, for example, with a health problem that you could recognize, you would say something. Part of that is helping them recognize what signs of problems are and how to talk to people about it and say, you know what, I used to like going out with you, but now I have to take care of you all the time, and it sucks. I don't want to do that anymore. I'm sick of worrying about you. I hate it when you call me all the time when you're drunk.
If you start to present things to people and question them on their actions, question them on why they act certain ways and do certain things, maybe somewhere down the lines they'll start to question themselves too.
If you live in a dorm, to just reach out to as many people, reach out to as many of your friends that you feel are getting into, tough situations, to reach out and just to talk to them and help them.
If you feel pressure within your group of friends, I think that's time to take a step back and look at who your friends are and why would they be pressuring you to do something that you don't want to do on a particular night, or ever for that matter.
If you can't talk to someone that you trust and you have care with, then I don't think that's really a relationship.
There is some good news. Per capita alcohol consumption is down. The numbers of students who are choosing not to drink or who are drinking in low-risk ways is increasing. And probably best of all, many, many students are getting involved in trying to create healthier environments on their campuses. It's extremely important to support these students and to support their efforts and to let all students know that they really do have a choice.
You have control of who you want to associate yourself with. So if you don't want to go to a party where there are drunk people running around and throwing themselves on you, don't put yourself in that situation, because if you want to stay sober, do something sober and do something with sober people.
Cool to be able to see that, like, wow, like, I'm an interesting person even though I'm not drinking, or like, people still like me and I'm still cool or whatever. I mean, I know it's wicked cheesy, but like, it's true. I mean, you don't need it. It's such a crutch.
And what this says to me is how thoroughly the alcohol industry has co-opted all of these things. They've actually gotten us to believe that we will have nothing to do if we can't drink, that we won't be able to do any of these things without alcohol. So the challenge is to imagine a kind of environment, a campus, where all of these things are possible. You know, good times and fun and lots of things to do and excitement and joy and passion without alcohol being the focus.
It doesn't mean you can't drink. It just don't conform to someone else's, especially a sort of industry's version of what you should be. You know, be yourself. It just, you know, some of this really just involves courage, you know, and independence of spirit and of action, you know.